Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Thief Master Difficulty video walkthrough. This is going to be a little special, this one, guys, because you're going to be getting a handful of achievements or trophies depending on what you're into if you follow this guide. So you'll notice I'm going to be activating a bunch of custom settings on top of my normal difficulty. The only two that I will not be activating are the chapter saves only and the Iron Man Ultimate mod. Everything else will be on. There is an achievement for beating the game with over 700 points of difficulty mods, which you will get if you follow this. There is an achievement for never using focus up until the last chapter, which you will get if you follow this. I believe there's an achievement for like not killing or not getting alarms. There's a whole bunch of achievements linked, and what I'm going to do is in the description for the video I'm going to put pretty much everything that you're going to get if you follow this guide. So if you're interested in, you know, the rewards at the end, if you are one of those achievement people or the trophy people that come along and often use my videos, then that'll all be written there for you. For everybody else who's just stuck on Thief or who just follows the channel and is interested, this is my Thief guide. This is the prologue. It's entitled The Drop. And it's going to be introducing you to Garrett's kleptomania, because you're a thief, and it doesn't really make a lot of sense in this game that you can pick up the most ornamentally carved, golden, gilded, awesome looking fountain pen and get 10 pence for it, and yet you can pick up something that's just completely innocuous and doesn't look valuable and get 30 gold. It's kind of strange, but it's introducing you to the notion that the levels are rich and detailed with things to look for, find, and steal. And you, as you are the titular thief, that's what you kind of want to be doing. This is introducing you to a mechanic of the birds. Nothing to do with Hitchcock, but if you swoop or move quickly near birds, they will alert. And if you're playing on master difficulty, like I am, the birds are pretty much the trickiest part of the game because they're broken. And they're broken in a hilarious way. I could be in a different room. If I run or swoop, a bird will see you through a wall and immediately fail you. If you throw a glass bottle when you're in shadow near a bird, none of the humans will know where it came from. The bird immediately does, and for some reason these birds are like the queen bees, and it immediately fails you. Every single time. So if you see a bird cage, you better be crouched and not swooping, or you will get caught almost every single time, even through walls, guys. So respect the birds. I know it sounds silly, and if you've played it on normal and you're like, well, they barely did anything, trust me folks, when you play on the harder difficulties, the birds are pretty much the most difficult aspect of this game. But right there we opened up that little locket and we got something known as a rope arrow. Rope arrows work exactly like you've just seen. Every so often you'll see a piece of scaffold in the level. It'll have a bit of like rope around it that's bound, a little bit of bindings, and you can shoot one of these arrows and get a nice shortcut. And it's a pretty cool idea. I didn't use it too much because of a difficulty mod, the arrows cost 600 gold. And you might have noticed so far, but I'm not going to be taking my time and looting every area. In fact, I'm not going to be looting at all. And I recommend you do not do that on your playthrough, because the joy of a game like this, especially a first playthrough, is to do things like check every corner, loot everything, have a lot of fun, get a ton of gold. I already did that on my first playthrough, and I didn't spend any of it, really. So for the guide, I want it to be short, streamlined, concise, and I want people who are in need to be able to drop onto these videos and know exactly what needs to be known. So watching me steal, you know, everything that shines in a room for 20 minutes is not a walkthrough, in my opinion, and hopefully this will be. So a couple of important things to know about the gold. You get gold bonuses at the end of the levels, you get gold when you pick stuff up, there are secret missions, there are side missions, there are a whole host of secret jewels to rob and things like that. Pretty much not going to be doing any of it, folks, not because it's not good, just because it's not in the path that I'm taking to get you through the game in the, you know, the most paramount time. A couple of things to bear in mind with the gold is the stuff you want to prioritize buying. For me personally would be the wrench and the alarm cutter tools, just because if you're going to be exploring on your first playthrough, you're going to find a lot of vents, you're going to find a lot of alarms, and they're going to enable you to find out which path works best for you. Because there are a handful of different areas in the game, they can all be approached in a handful of different ways, and a lot of them, the crutch of them is either a specific arrow to use that gets you through it, or a specific tool to use. And unfortunately, it can bite you in the ass if you don't have them. And that is one of my main gripes with the game, is the fact you can put yourself into a situation where it's almost completely unbeatable because you didn't have the equipment. And you might be thinking, well, how could you not have the equipment? So I'll tell you my story in this bit of a short video. I got to the second to last level of the game. I didn't have a rope arrow to do one of the avenues that I'd found, and another avenue involved using a vent, and I didn't have a wrench. And you might be thinking, well, how did you not have a wrench when you've got this far through the game? I actually thought the wrench classed as an upgrade, so I didn't buy it because I thought it would void the mod. And it turns out that's not how it works. Everything that's available to you in the shop is completely fine because they take away the things that aren't. So you're not going to void achievements, you're not going to void your mods or anything. You know, you're going to abide by the laws of the game, and you're also going to have the ability to open doors that I couldn't open. So I went through the entire game with the stipulations that you're watching, without the wrench, without the hot wire, without anything to cut or trim or tweak anything. And it made a handful of rooms a lot more difficult than they needed to be. So hopefully some people will be entertained by some of the the unorthodox strategies you're going to see herein. But for the most, I recommend the wrench and I recommend the trap dispenser thing, because it's just going to make your life a lot easier. So this room here, this first room, you'll notice that I'm swooping a little bit. The swoop mechanic is great, but do you notice how there's a bird there? I am so close to getting caught, it's not even funny. And you might not think it's a big thing because it's a prologue, and you might be thinking, well, there's no guards around, why would you get caught? The game doesn't care. If you have no alarms on, for some reason when the birds see you it classes as an alarm. And I have absolutely no idea, maybe they've got Bluetooth, I'm not too sure, but it's pretty rough, and the alarms go thick and fast if you make a lot of noise. But this is the main brunt of the tutorial, because the prologue is teaching you what to do, and you'll notice I'm using this dashing looking dancing move, which is called the swoop, and it gives you a nice speed boost for a certain period of time over a certain amount of distance, and you can do it, I think it's about 4 to 5 times before Garrett starts getting a little bit tired, and then his swoops will get systematically worse, and then it'll get to a point where he's doing really shit ones, and you've got to wait and get his breath back. I believe the mechanic is the same if you run a lot. If you run a lot, he gets a little bit knackered and you have to let him get his breath back. But anyone who's played this might notice that I am moving incredibly slow. And you might be thinking, well, am I doing this intentionally by brushing the analog, or what's going on? Well, there's a difficulty mod called Slurred Movement, and you're looking at it. And it is easily the most frustrating aspect of this playthrough, because I hate being slowed down. And you're going to see me spamming the swoop a lot and getting exhausted a lot because I just have no patience. I'm completely terrible for it. But the swoop is so unbelievably powerful, guys. It's one of those things where if you're having trouble with a section, getting past guards, you know, you think you can get past them, but you just got spotted and you think you might have been unlucky, swoop. Swoop like a bastard. And chances are you'll probably just get by and it'll work perfectly. And there's going to be a lot of really cunning, really, blatant strategies coming up in this guide where it doesn't look like it should work, but it does because of how powerful the swoop ability is. But unfortunately, you don't really get to see much of it on this because this is literally as close to a tutorial as it can be. And the level structure of this game is quite interesting. It has you going back to a hub world between missions, and the hub world is kind of like a labyrinth of streets and shops and bars. And unfortunately, you are in trouble of being spotted and setting off alarms when you're in it, so it's not like you can relax. And some of the hub world encounters can be trickier than the missions, because the missions are much more better designed, except for the last one. The last two, sorry. The last one, because I disagree with the final area. for certain reasons, and the second to last one because it seems to throw away all the options and subtleties of the previous levels, and it forces you down a path that has a billion dudes everywhere. And I understand for balancing, and it's the end of the game, so the game needs to be challenging, but it just wasn't as much fun. And I'm probably going to talk a lot about that later on. So right here, as Erin goes onto the roofs, it's introducing you to the distraction mechanic, and you can pick up bottles and throw them. I have issue with the bottle system as well, because you'll notice that you can only pick up certain ones, and the worlds are littered with bottles. There are bottles on the ground that if you swoop into, you will break and you'll notify people. You know, there's a lot of things that work against you that you can't use, and I just wish that if they were going to put this system in where you can pick things up and throw them, let us pick up all the bottles, not just the specific ones, because it's a little shitty. But once you've climbed up here, you're going to be moving towards this rope. The rope controls, pretty simple stuff. I thought you had to hold the left trigger while you were climbing or he'd drop the rope. That is not a thing. You know, that's just old game design in my head that I can't really get rid of.
Worried I might beat you. Let's just get the job done.
And if you see anything kooky happening on the ropes, it's because my analog strays, so it's kind of moving me when I don't want it to.
Do it without this.
Right there, you picked Pocketed Erin, and it got you probably the most useful item in the game aside from Swoop, which is the claw. It's not quite the one from Liar Liar, but it's pretty beastly. So thank you for watching, folks, and stick with this walkthrough. It's going to be a good one. You take care now.